This podcast is made possible by the generosity of listeners and viewers like you. Kindly consider a contribution through Patreon or PayPal. Links are in the details box. Any amount is appreciated. And follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The handle, The Beirut Banyan. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. And to stay updated with video releases, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for listening, and thanks for watching. I'm Rani Shatar, and this is The Beirut Banyan.
Years ago, and this is now going back to, this may be 15 years ago, I watched what I think was, at that time, an unusual situation, Nimr.
Yeah.
Nimr on stage at AUB.
Okay.
In one of those field day events, doing something that I think he's not the first, but he pioneered something. He made it accessible, which has now become so standard in this country, stand-up.
Yes.
I did an episode with Nimr, actually. We talked about those years, and he talked about it in a way that he felt alone, or at least he didn't have that warm community to fully stand by him. Now there's a healthy community here. So that's also, for me, it's nice to see this huge transition. There's a collective now of comedians that come together.
It's more of a scene more than a community. Yeah, we have tons of comedians now here in Lebanon. Unfortunately, is male dominated. So if you're watching this episode and you think you're funny and you're a female, please come to the open mic nights. So we need, we have 3 or 4 female comics. And what you said is true, yeah. So Nimr, when he started, he pioneered the fact that, hey, what I'm doing here is called stand-up comedy. Although people before him were doing stand-up comedy, but they didn't know it was called stand-up comedy.
Right.
So he just defined what we were doing.
Yeah.
And he started around 2005 or 6. يمكن أنا مغلط شوية بالدate. But that's when I discovered Nimr.
Yeah.
Because he opened for the Axis of Evil comedy tour.
Right.
And then I learned all about his history, and I became friends with him along the way. And I shared that I wanted to become a stand-up comedian one day, and he was super supportive on the phone. He never came to any of the shows, so I have to say that. I just outed
that's
him.
really funny.
No, he came to one in Jamaica, which I bombed. So I'm not gonna mention that. So yeah. So we had this discussion about stand-up, and I started stand-up when I was 16 or 17 years old. Here in Jamaica, by the way.
So the scene going back to 2006, 7, 8, I honestly can't remember which year I saw him either.
Yeah.
But I think it's at the beginning of his stand-up career.
Yeah.
And the way you're describing it, I think it's better in that you're right. It's a scene less than a community. It's more a scene, less a community, but the scene is alive.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is remarkable. The last few years, it really took off. But if I could go back with you to watching someone like Nimr on stage, and I actually used to go to these Axis of Evil shows.
Yeah.
I think they were at Forum back then.
I don't really remember. I was underage to actually go to them. I was 15 or 16, and they did. I think they did them in Casino du Liban.
Was it Casino?
Casino du Liban, I think, yeah. Because Forum is too big for them. I think they needed 1,000 people to watch them. Forum has.
I think one of them was at Forum.
They did. I don't know. I don't remember. I'm sorry.
But that kind of, let's say it's an unusual art form here, 15, 16, 17 years ago. And your teenage years, looking at those kinds of people on stage, if you could look back now, and what is the draw for someone like you to think, you know what, that's the kind of career I'd like to have one day?
The thing is, I wasn't inspired first from them. I was inspired because we had a TV network called Showtime, and now it's called OSN, I think. Yeah. And they used to have Monday stand-up. So every Monday, they just showcase stand-up comedy on TV. And I used to watch them, and I used to watch them in secret because My father used to enter my room, and I was like, no, I can't see like Martin Lawrence talking about nipples, and I was like 14 years old. so the first stand-up I saw was Chris Rock, and then Dana Carvey, and so on. And so I was like, I loved comedy because I thought comedy is a great weapon, a great peaceful weapon for change. And I was inspired from my father because when we used to have like fights every Sunday on stupid shit in the family, the big family, my father was the one who threw one joke, like it decimated everything, like and people were laughing, and then they could carry on with their lunch. I was like, I want to do that for my career, for my whole life. And I discovered stand-up, and I fell in love with the freedom of it.
So this is all by watching American comedians on TV. It's not so much the infancy of the scene here. It's not the initial stand-up scene in Lebanon. It's more just seeing it on television.
I don't think there was a stand-up scene here before 2019.
Okay.
Because we tried as comics to come up with a scene.
Yeah.
And the problem was that the audience here in Lebanon didn't have like the comedy culture. Like before it was, I want to go watch Ronnie, or I want to go watch Maria. Now we're super glad, and we're super happy that now we're in a time in Lebanon where people say, hey, let's go watch comedy on Thursday, especially with the comedy club nights, with the unannounced lineups that you see. So now it's a thing. Now it's people, let's go watch comedy. And then if the person I like is on the lineup, great. If he's not or she's not, still it's good. I watched 8 stand-up comedians, and I had drinks and I had food.
You know, it's funny because you're seeing it on TV.
Yeah.
And you're drawn to it as a performer, willing to make people laugh. The first stand-up experience I had, I was a teenager, and I went to the Comedy Cellar in New York. And I think on stage, some of these famous acts were testing their material. So you could go into a club at night as a teenager and watch what would later become huge comedian stars. But I think the vulnerability is what got me. And that I like watching people completely exposed. And it's not because I have sadistic tendencies, but I actually...
I like that sentence. It's not because I have.
It's not because I have, I'm not looking for anything demonic here, but I actually do like the going all the way to see how vulnerable art can be. And I'm not a comedian, but I can sense this is one of the most vulnerable art forms.
It is.
Did any of that draw you in? That you thought of yourself? Yeah. So vulnerability was something.
It was the first thing I said. It was like freedom, and vulnerability is freedom. Like the fact that I am allowing myself to be vulnerable on stage in front of 300 people in order to make them laugh. I think it's an amazing thing to do, because stand-up is an art form. Let's not have this discussion, because I hate when people say stand-up is not an art form. You're just going on stage and you're just saying jokes. No. We struggle like artists. We have this. How do you say it? اللحظات الوجودية as artists, as comedians. We struggle to create jokes. We struggle to have the stories in order to make them into jokes. So it's there already. And stand-up is a conversation. At least that's how I define it. It's not a performance. The monologue is a performance. The monologue, who's a one-man show, already is a performance. Stand-up is not, because we broke the barrier. We broke the fourth wall, let's call it this way. And we established that this is a conversation between us as comics and you as an audience. The only difference is we get to say our part verbally, and you get to say your part by laughing, by not laughing, or by leaving the room. And this always happens. People agree or disagree with us. And that's the beauty of stand-up, because it's an ongoing conversation between comedians and artists. And that's how you see the evolution of a comedian. Because if you follow them, like, I'm going to take myself as an example, because I'm... Marhaba, ahla sahla. Did they reserve or something?
He's one of the earlier guests. He's
Oh, he is.
Oh, he is.
I'm sorry, I don't know who he is. I'm sorry. I apologize to him. Who's he, by the way?
Bashar Haidar.
What did he do?
He got in trouble recently.
Oh, okay. So we don't want
There
to
he
know
is.
him. Bashar, I'm sorry, sir. So I was saying, so the evolution. So I did a special before called Shashma.
Yeah.
And I started when I was 28 or 29. So when I started Shashma, I wrote it for a year and a half. And I need to shout out, there's people here from Sidewalk Beirut, an open mic night that happens every Monday.
Rayan
And they're
also,
here as
and
well.
Samad,
So, yeah, so they allow people, especially artists, to have 5 minutes on stage and to do whatever they want. I took this opportunity to test out my material in order to create Shashma.
But before we also,
Yeah.
let's say the earlier stage, because
Yeah.
I'd like to see what can take a teenager beyond appreciating the art form, but becoming, in a way, a professional comedian. You're young,
Yeah.
and Chris Rock is on television.
Yeah,
A few years later, you're working with Salem Zatari.
yeah,
It's a very short period of time,
it is.
and you're on CNN.
Yeah.
So those few years,
Yeah.
is it that you don't find yourself wanting to do anything else? Is it the stage and the ability to have this kind of strength? Well, what is it exactly that makes you want to become a comedian?
I'm gonna compare it with anything that you're passionate about. So you know that you're passionate about something when you leave it. And I left comedy for at least a year recently, and I talk about it in my new special, Ashtaf Zoom. And the fact that you're broken without it is the fact Zabadak explains that, okay, this is something that you really want to do. And my stand-up, I was on and off at some point because there wasn't a scene. There was no open mic nights. I couldn't test out material as a teenager, and then I became in my 20s. There was nothing that helped stand-up become itself.
So the infrastructure wasn't there.
There was no infrastructure. There was no open mic nights. I was forced to do full-hour shows in order to test out material. And because people didn't come to, hey, come watch me test out material. They didn't come. And they were free shows because I just wanted to do stand-up.
And this was in Gymnasium.
One of them, yeah. So I started here in a place called EM Chill Electromechanique back then, and I was, and then I started touring. So I touring, but sorry, I apologize.
Mar Mkhail.
Just touring between Hamra and Mar Mkhail, yeah, and my aunt's house. So it was like 3 places. So I started doing shows. If you remember,
can you imagine the T-shirt, the merchandise? You know,
man,
Hamra, Mar Mkhail.
no. But it's cringe because I used to call myself the doctor.
Really?
Okay, it's cringe. I talk about it in Shashma. I joke about it. I'm over this. But I used to have a smiley face with a stethoscope on it because I'm the doctor of comedy. I need to cure people with laughter. So I'm shit. I'm sorry. I'm not anymore. I'm so glad. I'm over this. See, this is vulnerability. This is stand-up. So,
but you're doing this without infrastructure. You're going to EM Chill.
Yeah.
I used to go to EM Chill. I never thought of a comedy act there.
It's just a venue.
You're just looking for places to do it.
Stand-up is the cheapest art form you can ever have for a venue. You only need a microphone and a stand. That's it.
And your first time, do you remember going on stage?
Yeah, I remember. I had no facial hair because I was 15, 16.
This is a question I would ask, and I asked this to John Ashar as well, who's now an established comedian.
Yes.
The first act is probably the worst one, in that you're probably...
Ironically, it was good. The first show I've done, it was good.
Oh.
Because no
one showed up.
I started writing material because since I was 15, I was super excited to get the opportunity. And I met someone who had a sketch troupe that they do sketches live. So I was like, I begged him, I wanted like 10 minutes on stage before you, and I can start. I know I don't want any money. And he was like, okay, fine, you can come open for us.
Yeah.
So I opened for them, and it went well. The second show I opened for them, it was okay. The third show, I got booed off stage.
That's interesting.
That's the right evolution, yeah.
It's unusual in that the third one is where you start bombing.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, but that feeling of getting no laughs, or let's say people leaving, you make a decision, I guess, in that that's not going to deter you from still wanting to do this as a profession.
You know something? Every time we have open mic nights, and every time a new comic or new comedian comes to the open mic night, they do well usually for the first time because they've been preparing for such a long time.
Yeah.
And they tested it on their friends and they tested it on their family and so on. So when they come to me, if they came to me and ask me for my opinion, I'll be like, I'm super glad that you had a great first set. I cannot wait for you to bomb next time. And they will look at me like, what?
Yeah.
Seriously, like you're talking to me? You'll understand when this happens. Yeah. And when because the moment that you bomb on stage for the first time and you get this awful feeling inside of you, this is when you decide, do I want to have a life when I'm gonna feel this way all the time? If I'm sadistic enough like you, so I will do it. So yeah, because bombing on stage is part of the process. At the Makbirat, like if Dave Chappelle bombed on stage and got booed off stage like 2 years ago. I don't know if you've seen it, YouTube it, it's there. And that's Dave Chappelle. So it happens but with time, you get more experience and you get more, you learn the techniques more and you'll get better confidence on stage. And you decide if you want to be this guy who when you're doing a bad job and somebody heckles, you reply or not. So it's with the process.
Is it the strength you see in making people laugh that draws you into this career as a teenager? Because you're still very young.
Yeah.
You can do anything. It sounds like you're able to do more than just comedy. You have filmmaking credentials too.
Yeah.
You're in production in a sense. You're not limited to this profession, but you decide to carry through it. Is it that you find the power of making someone laugh as an ultimate sort of pleasure? I mean, what is that reason that you decide that's it? I want to be a comedian.
I think it's the first laugh you get. The first laugh you get, it's very addictive. When people laugh at your jokes, even if this is how you choose your friends, by the way. So you choose your friends because they're either funny, like first layer, and then the second layer because you relate to them, which is typically stand-up. You need to be relatable and you need to be funny. There you go. So and that's why people always expect from us that we're gonna be this funny, how we're on stage in life, which is not in my case. And I'm not always funny in life. So yeah, I was drawn by the power of making people laugh, and I was drawn by the power. Secondly, with time, okay, I can use this power in order to shift things, in order to change things, and that's what happened with CNN.
Yeah,
CNN helped a lot of people change opinions with satire, with a lot of topics that happen in Lebanon.
Let's get into CNN.
Yeah.
So you discover the power that you have, and that laughing is something.
Yeah.
And you can perhaps have a career off of that. And then Salem Zatari sort of enters your world. I
entered his, actually. You know how? Yeah. Let me tell you. So I was I was abroad, and I had this shitty job abroad, which pays me a lot of money because it was in the Gulf. So
what were you doing other than comedy? What was
I studied filmmaking, and I was working in filmmaking. I was working on production sets, and I was doing that, which something I love as well. I want to become a full-time filmmaker, but it's a struggle. It's a mixture of both, which is great. But stand-up has a bigger place in my heart. So I was abroad, and I wrote a bit about. I'm not suicidal, but I wrote a bit about suicide and how you can't do it in Lebanon because of the shit. It was something satirical, and I sent it to Salam because I'm such a big fan to CNN. I sent it to Salam over Facebook Messenger, and his reply was, "Are you in Lebanon?" I was like, "No, but I'm coming back in 2 weeks. That's my number. Call me when you're here, and I need to talk to you." I was like,
so you don't know him before that?
No. We've never met.
And this is 2012 or so?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I called him right the day I arrived to Lebanon. Yeah. I called him. I was like, "Yeah, I'm in Lebanon. Let's meet. What do you want me to do? What's the next step?" He was like, "Yeah, come to Al Jadid and we'll talk." And firstly, he approached me to become a reporter on TV, and I was like, "I don't think now is the right time for me to do. I'd love to. I want to definitely, but I don't think now is the right time for me to do that because I'd love to be a writer for Shiana. I'd love to learn the satire, the satirical part, because I looked up to Salam and I looked up to Fuad and I looked up to the whole team about satire, and I wanted to learn satire before I do that.
So just to interrupt, I'm sorry I'm interrupting you a lot.
It's okay.
Because it's a rich story. And a lot is happening fast. You're drawn to the ability that Salam and Fuad had to change political opinion.
Yeah.
And that's from Dubai. You're watching CNN.
No, I didn't say Dubai.
Sorry. I thought you were abroad.
Golf.
On the Gulf.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually funny.
We need to do shows abroad, so yeah.
Sorry. In Abu Dhabi.
Why do you need to know the location? Why is it important for the story now?
In Hamra, you're watching.
I was on the Falklands.
You were the Falklands, yeah. The Falklands. You're the only person I've ever heard refer to the Falklands.
Yeah, the Madiq Jabal Tariq. Is it the same, right? No,
I think.
But I'm watching The Crown. That's why.
It's the Falklands.
Yeah.
It's Argentina, Britain, islands.
Yeah. You have your explanation. I'm not bright.
So when you were a filmmaker in the Falklands,
Yeah.
you saw Salam being able to change opinion in politics.
Yeah.
And that's
And in social politics.
social politics.
And especially in social politics.
That's what drew you to him.
Yeah, I was drawn to the whole show. Like, I knew it was a great collective of I knew it. The beauty of CNN, what you didn't see in other shows on TV, there was no individualism. I knew that Salam was the creative director of it and the guy who had the concept of CNN, but you don't see like Salam speaking about himself. Like, it wasn't only Salam and it wasn't only Fuad and it wasn't only Wissam, who's Abu Talal, or it wasn't only Al-Aouji, or it was a collective. It was a team of people who were trying to do satire in order to create change in Lebanon and in the region, and they succeeded in multiple things. And by the way, I have to mention it. Okay, I'm not gonna mention it because he asked me. No, he asked me to keep it a secret. I'm not gonna mention it. I got excited because I love this guy, so I'm not gonna say it. He's a stand-up comedian. I'm not gonna mention this. So, sorry,
We can edit
this out. Yes,
Yeah.
okay. I'll tell you on the in the break because you're gonna love the story. So I saw them as a for the edit. I saw them as see, this is the filmmaker in me.
Such high standards.
Yeah,
here.
so I'm gonna sit like I'm gonna have
No
the
one will
S.
ever. Yeah, exactly.
The silence.
Wait, hold on. No.
Wait.
Falklands. Back.
Funny Wissam. Okay, so I'm gonna. Yeah, so I'm gonna. I love the collective work that they were doing, and I had the ambition I was aspiring to become one of them. Like, I wanted to join this, whatever it took me. And
But if I can throw it in a different way,
Yeah.
that's less vulnerable, that's less individual, which I think is exactly what stand-up is all about. You're willing to go behind the scenes to some degree.
Yeah.
So do you think of it as, I mean, not to make it too romantic,
Yeah.
but are you dabbling with politics in your mind? Is that your political expression coming out through comedy?
Yeah, I'm not the best political satirist in stand-up, and I don't have the best knowledge in politics. I'm not very well opinionated in politics. I don't. وما بعمل حالك أنا I'm this يعني. I'm learning with time, but I know social politics. I know that ما عندنا كهرباء. We don't have electricity. We have a shitty government. We have. So that's what I wanted to change, and that's what I wanted to talk about in Shiana and with the team. And the people behind the scene are amazing. Like, I have to mention, like, Tariq Ghayada was one of the main writers in Shianan. Ghina Hashisho. I don't know if you've seen. Have you ever watched Shianan, by the way, as a collective? Okay. Do you remember when we showed a sketch? Like, no, it was a parody. It wasn't a parody, sorry. We took Emil Lahoud's interview and we turned it like he was talking about his romantic night with a guy. It was Ghina Hashisho. It was an editor with Shianan, who worked with Shianan, and like a visual artist, let's call her, who made this by herself. She wasn't asked to do that. And we heard her laugh from like the 5th floor. And she was like, I did something. And she showed us. We were like, okay, this is amazing. This is going on the episode. So we didn't have this, how do you say it? Like the system. Like we need to create this segment and then this segment. It was people pouring their hearts out for satire, and they had a lot of ideas. And Salam was the one who was like, okay, so we structured this. So we put this here and we put this here. Oh, this worked with here. Do you think it worked? It wasn't an individual thing, that was the beauty of Shannon, and that's why I always say to Salam, please come back. Please, I know people are asking you to come back and to do Shannon again in another name. I don't give a fuck, but please come back. And he said it, and he said he misses the team.
I think those were the words he said here. Actually, yeah.
He said it here. Like,
It's
in order to create a great show, he needs the team, and he mentions the team, and he mentioned that I was part of it. So, and I say that if Salam is watching the episode, the team is here. مش ضروري نفس العالم بس انه I'm sure there's a lot of enthusiasts who wants to work with you as a satirist, as a chief satirist, you called him that. So as a satirist, and who wants to create change in Lebanon and in the region using satire. We have all the equipment that we need. We have all the leverage that we want. We have the audience that wants to watch this. So this is زبدك, how do you say it? Like نداء استغاثة لسلام, please come back, do satire, because you were great back then and you can be better now with your maturity now.
You have maybe the strategic advantage in that you have the passion for stand-up anyway.
Yeah.
I guess Salam is more, because he's very talented at satire, but he's not a stand-up comedian.
He's not.
And he's maybe, I think, and I said this to him in the episode, that even if he's divorced himself from TV, I think he belongs there. In a way, I see him as that. It's exactly what you said. He's the host of a show that revolves around comedy, but he's not the chief comedian. He's the chief satirist.
Yeah, and that's better actually.
Exactly. Yeah, and I agree. He should have that show in any way. But you have the stand-up passion.
Yeah.
So you stayed CNN until I guess CNN leaves to BBC.
Yeah, I left Shannon at least like month before they lost the show in Al Jadid.
Right.
I thought like after 2 years I needed to venture into a new outlet in order to create, because let's face it, I've been doing stand-up since I was 17 and it's not my full-time job. I've never had it as my full-time job. I cannot say that this is what I do only. So I had to work multiple things and do stand-up in order to maintain a good life financially, and at the same time to go away with my passion. Go away with my passion is grammarly غلط. لازم تصلح لي أنت.
Yeah,
go away with my شو الجملة سارة؟ شو
go with my passion.
Go with my passion. What the fuck? Sorry, but is sponsored by Grammarly.
I don't know where your passion went.
كيف إنه خلص مشينا. This is vulnerability. Yeah.
The chief grammar.
The chief grammar, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna be the mascot of Duolingo next. Painted green and doing that again. You missed your today. Hey, come.
But that's actually, in a way, it's to your advantage. You leave that type of work when the scene is starting here.
Yeah.
So that's really around the time where things like Awk.word, at least the ideas are there.
Yeah.
In their beginning. Is that when you decided that I'm going to stick to stand-up?
Yeah.
Because I don't think of you as a satirist now.
I'm still not full-time stand-up comedian.
And you're not still, yeah, exactly. So is that when you're, in a way, you go back to your comfort zone, which is doing an act? And those years when Awk.word is beginning and the scene is beginning, I remember it as being, in a way, there's an innocence there too. Now it's become an established institution. You can go to KED and watch Awk.word nights. Yeah. I've been to Awkwardness at Barzakh.
You've been?
And actually I went 2 weeks ago.
Okay, awesome.
And there's always an audience. There's always a team. There's a lineup.
Yeah.
That's now. Going back in time, can you take me back to the beginning of that kind of scene?
With Awk.word?
Yeah, with Awk.word and also with your own sort of
your own
career.
In my personal, like in my case, as I said before, in order for me to test out my material, in order for me to become a stand-up comedian, I was forced to do full shows, an hour show, in order to test out with untested jokes. And at some point, I was fed up. I said, that's not the case. I'm not gonna do this anymore because people are not like, I used to have 3 people in front of me and 4 people and 5 people in a full-on show. So what I started to do is I started crashing places. I started crashing pubs that had microphones, and I started asking them like, okay, I know you have a happy hour here. I'm a stand-up comedian. I tell them my story, and I just need 10 minutes. Can I have 10 minutes on stage in order to test out my material? Most of them said no, which is the right thing to do. Some people were how do you say it, like أخذوا المخاطرة الزيادة عن اللزوم قالوا okay, try it. Like the first time I did it, you remember there's a place in Hamra called Loft 21?
Yeah.
So I entered this place and there was a networking event. They had this, my name is Hafiz, and they were like just talking, and I asked the owner, can I do this? And he was like, free show? Shit, yeah. I was like, so I took
still free. In other words, it's just literally testing.
10 minutes.
You're just looking for an audience.
I just need some audience, please, and a microphone just to test out my material in order to create a fine show, in order to actually produce one.
Yeah.
So I used to do that. And then this translated 2 years after into a show that I did on YouTube called Crash the Mic, which we added the speaker element that I used to go. And it did, if you've seen the episodes of you, or you're going to watch the episodes, all the 5 episodes were real interactions. Like I went into the actual place and with the speaker, and people didn't know like I was doing stand-up on the spot. And this is what happened. And literally after Crash the Mic, in like a year, I was contacted by one of the founders of Awk.word. His name is Danny. And he was like, let's have a meeting.
Can you remind me, Awk.word officially starts which year? Is it?
Awk.word's anniversary is on the 27th of February 2018.
Oh, that's the first day.
The first show ever. That was
But you're, in a way, it's all leading up to that kind of...
I was dreaming of, please, let's have a scene. I wanted to have this community of comedians where everybody is equal with each other. We're all coming for the same purpose and one purpose only. Because, back then there was some comedians, and they didn't last, by the way, because of the ego and because of the not knowing or not loving the culture of comedy. They were like, no, I need to get paid more, or I need to get be last on stage or something. It was fucked up. So we didn't have the comedy scene. What Awk.word did, which was, we're so grateful for that, is that they just told comedians like, this is a stage for you to come to perform. And this is a community and everybody is equal here. And we addressed this like beautifully. I went there not as a comedian who's done like 9 years of stand-up before. I went there as if, this is my first day in stand-up. As if I was playing, when you're a kid and you're playing football under your house. Now I'm playing in the big leagues. Now I'm doing stand-up. I'm doing actual stand-up. So تعاملت مع الفكرة as a stand-up comedian who's starting from scratch. And I met all the new comics as if I am starting.
So those 10 years that you're doing it largely on your own. I mean, you're going from bar to bar, from EM Chill all the way to Loft.
Yeah.
I mean, you're searching for an audience.
Yeah.
You have other comedians doing this too.
No. I was the only one who's doing full-time, full-hour shows. Like you had a group called Liao, Reasons to Laugh Your Asses Off. There were 4 comics. One of them is still doing improv comedy with Akaba Quickies. His name was Tony Dagher. توني داخل ما مات بس انا قلت لك شفت الجرامر قد ايه زباله ما نفهمه هذا الشيء كثير لا I sent him a message قلت له this is exclusively we're gonna speak exclusive in English قال لي يا فيك تحكي عربي I was like لا الايجو فانه we had Liao, so they used to do 50 minutes performances each, and they had a show in Babel Theater, and they had if you remember Babel Theater,
of course, yeah.
So we had those, and we had do we call them lineups? I don't know. I don't remember. Like they used to like بجمعوا بعضهم few comedians and let's do this show and then the ego happens. عرفت كيف؟ and then لا أنا ما بطلع قبل هيدا ولا ما هذا and then بيفرطوا. So nobody had مش nobody sorry a lot of people didn't have the إنه is it worth it إنه أنا ضيع وقتي ونقهر أكتر وكرمال stand up fuck it.
So let's say the crowd that we think of today as established comics.
Yeah.
And a lot of them they're also friends. I mean, they're people we know. You would consider yourself the only one that was doing a full act?
I had, that's why when before we did the episode, we started recording, you asked me, this is your first special, Ashtaf Zoom, that's coming in 28 December. I told you, no, in quantity, it's my 5th, but in quality, it's my 2nd. Because the first 3, for me, they were shit. I was trying to do them in front of audiences that with untested material. So I don't consider them as specials anymore. I don't. They were tests. They were tryouts for me in order for me to do Shashma, the first special,
right,
in quality, and now Ashtaf Zoom in second as a second special.
So the way you're describing it, it seems like it's a decade of hard work that gets you to do your first special.
Yeah.
So it takes 10 years for you pushing people to let you go on stage, even if it could be in front of 5 people, doesn't matter.
Now it's not the case.
Yeah, exactly. So those initial 10 years, where you become, in a way, you've honed your craft.
Yeah.
Then Awk.word opens.
Yeah.
And there's a scene finally.
Yeah.
If I remember right, the scene is beginning to grow and grow and grow, and then suddenly everything changes. Many things happen at once. First, October 17 changes things forever.
Exactly.
Corona takes everyone home. So it's the worst thing I think for a comic, in that you have to try to make people laugh only on social media.
We did a couple of Zoom shows.
It's terrible, right?
Terrible. Terrible. I don't know how I agreed to that. Like I've done shows that were like إذا بدكم ببهدلوني إذا بدكم when I was starting out. This was the most humiliating show I've done. You doing your set and the build up, and then when you're reaching the punchline and you're like, and people like raising hands on Zoom or something to laugh. I don't know. It was weird as fuck.
You can't hear the audience laughing. You wouldn't know if it's landing or not.
No, you can see them, and we as comics know if you're fake laughing.
Yeah.
So if we can't hear you and you're like, it's not satisfying.
Of course.
We don't know if you're laughing or not.
But it's interesting that this infrastructure rides out the whole wave that we've been going through. And 2023, Lebanon is going through one of its darkest chapters. You can still go to a comedy show every week.
Yeah.
And it's usually full, which I think is...
Hopefully.
The times I've been, and the times I've seen you actually, it's always been nearly a full house, if not a full house. That includes awkwardness, which I think is great.
Yeah.
That's literally first-timers or second-timers. It's initial acts.
Not first-timers. They're not just first-timers. Like, we as established comedians, we go on, we can't wait, we fight for the spots. We need the spots in order to test out material, and we bomb as fuck, especially in Barzakh. So he knows, he's laughing because he knows the struggle of Barzakh, because it's a weird room. Anyway, so we go to open mic nights in order to start material. We ask for, like, I asked Jad, because Jad has an open mic night called Mawaf Amoumeh. Or Mawaf now it's called Mawaf. Yeah, Mawaf. So he's a comedian with another comedian called Aaliya, who created this because they needed spots, and they were like, okay, let's create a new open mic night. And we were like, yes, do that. You handle the organization, we'll come for the spots. So I asked him yesterday, I sent him a text, like, do you have an open mic night tonight? He was like, no. I was like, fuck. I got angry. He was like, why? I was like, I had this one joke I need to test. Like, so we're eager for open mic nights in order to test out material, in order for us to do them in our comedy club nights or in showcases or in our upcoming specials. So that answered the question. I don't know.
Well, I was wondering why you think the nascent infrastructure survives and it's still growing. Why you think that this kind of art form is sticking? Because it's the way you're describing it is that it's a struggle, it's a build-up, and then finally it takes off, then the country collapses, but it's still succeeding. Even to the point you see Awk.word going to the Gulf sometimes, not to name the cities.
Yeah,
But
you can name this. No?
that I can do? Okay, yeah.
We're
So-
doing something good actually, Onik.
Okay. The Falklands, Awk.word's outlet,
Yeah.
But it's working. How would you give credit to that? Is it that everyone's committed to the art form,
Yeah.
and that you discovered over time there is an audience that's interested?
I'm gonna take it on myself and how I see the process, how I treat stand-up on itself. So stand-up is a vicious circle, which we enjoy to put ourselves in, which is you write your material, you test them out, they work, you do them in comedy club night, and with time you're doing more material and you're testing more, and then you do your showcase, and people are coming to the showcase, which is great, and then now you have an hour. And you test this hour again and again and again in order to have the right structure. And then you launch the hour. Once you launch the hour, you go back to writing jokes and testing material and doing. So it's a vicious circle. You're always doing that.
Circle, but it seems like that's the process you need to make this sustainable. That people are going to see you test and then eventually to watch what is this special.
Yeah, to see the final product, that how it helped. Because that's the difference. Because people watch us in comedy club nights and then they watch our specials and they're like, yeah, but I saw these jokes. Yeah, but they didn't see the structure.
Yeah.
That's what we're working on, especially when we're working on specials. When you've seen my jokes in comedy club nights, they're singular jokes that has meaning by its own. But in my special, especially in the upcoming special, Ashtaf Zoom, you can clearly see that there's a structured set, an hour and 5 minutes of you watching the whole story that I want to tell you, and me telling you messages. I hate when artists say أنا بكرمال الرسالة. Okay, بقى ما وصلت لحدا. So no, استقطع الرسالة ما عم توصل. But no, there's something that I want to say to you in order to سخف الفكرة البشعة. يعني مثلا CNN pioneered in that. Especially when we're talking about sectarianism. We did documentaries called CNN The Edge and CNN The Fall, and it was all about when Ahmed Asir was there.
Yeah.
And we spoke about كيف كل religions here in Lebanon are trying to have their power here in Lebanon, and how they're using religion in order for corruption. We got messages, and I am the proud owner of these messages because I was also an online producer on CNN, from people who wrote to us and told us, so أنا فرجت had documentary to my mom, who is very متعصبة, and she was like, oh shit, أنا عم فكر غلط, and now she's different, which was like, okay, we reached our point. That's what we want. We want to show that كل التفكير القديم القصص البشعه بطبيعه الحال، ما بحكي عن تراديشنز بعصب علي شهر الحايك هلا، فانه كل التفكير القديم يلي that led us to civil war, that led us to post civil war, that led us to government corruption and محسوبيات and واسطه and so on and so on. It's stupid. Like it's let's show you with satire قد هذا الشيء غبي ولازم يتغير.
So without a show like BBC today, and Salam does his own thing now, which is different than I think that kind of expression, everything is changing in this country fast, and expression in itself, its limitations are being drawn slowly. And in the last few years, there's been censorship to a degree, or at least curtailment.
Censorship on whom?
You've seen comedians getting in trouble sometimes.
Okay.
Censorship, not in the, not societal censorship, more like Noor Hajjar, for example, getting summoned.
Yeah.
Or for that matter, sometimes comics testing the limits.
Yeah.
And
but you've seen us after when Noor got summoned?
Yeah, exactly. So I want to go there.
Yes.
A few months ago, I sat with John Ashar, and we talked about what could be red lines. And I'm sure every comic has their own red line, and they don't always line up at the same time. But there's certain I think there's certain boundaries some comics draw, and then others say it's an open field regardless.
This is how it should be. Not because I need to just to emphasize on the red lines. Okay, let's say before we did our specials or before we did our shows, the comic went on stage and said, "Hi, the show didn't start yet. There's some people like they're gonna give you some paper and please write your red lines on them, so I won't speak about them." شو بيضل لي؟ What do I still have to talk about? It's not about because you spoke about cancel culture with Salam and about not having. I didn't agree with Salam when he was like, nothing. We can't joke about anything anymore. No, it's not about that. And I told him this after the episode. It's about intent, and it's about how and the reasoning why you're joking about this. I did a joke about the explosion, the 4 August explosion.
Yeah.
After like a few months of it, and you can see how it was accepted by everybody because the reasoning and the intent of it is clear. So what I say, I'm gonna say it because please روحوا على اليوتيوب channel. I'm not gonna go this sponsored. It was so انه نحن لما يصير عمرنا 21 سنه I'm gonna say it in Arabic, I'm sorry. نحن لما يصير عمرنا 21 سنه بتقلع جمله معنا يلي هي بتقلع يعني كلنا بنتفق عليها بنضلنا نقولها يلي هي التاليه لقيري شو بده يصير. لانه انت على 20 بتكون بدك تغير العالم بدك تكسر الدنيا ايه انا هو اللي بده يغير العالم. على 21 سنه تتاكد ان دولة نكتك ما فيك تعمل شيء. لا يري شو بصير بهذا الصوت لا يري على كل شيء بضلك تقولها هيك. سو تقول انه هات نروح نشفط على الدوره لا يري شو بصير. هات نروح نعمل شيء لا يري شو بصير. هات نحط نيترات امونيوم بنص البور لا يري شو بده يصير. That was the joke and it got a laugh and يعني people زقفوا كمان يعني هدول هن لا ما بعرف ليه بس انا ايه بعرف ولو اصير هيك I got offended. بس I حطيتها على Reddit. انا I'm actively on Reddit by the way. في 3 تحمسوا هون. I'm actively on Reddit and somebody حط comment بعقد قال this is the greatest joke about 4 August that doesn't offend anybody that and هدول. And I was so proud of this comment. I was like hey أخو منيوك عرفت كيف إنه so the reasoning it's when you're creating a joke is that's why when I discuss jokes with anybody any other comics I was like okay so why you're saying this joke, what do you want to say with it, why you're dealing with it, why you're using this word in order هدول. And when you find the why, when you find the reasoning and when you find the intent, you have a great set and you have it's not about not offending anybody. People will be offended by anything. That's why the people dislike puppy videos on YouTube. Like I don't know like,
you know I'll give you an example that I had with John Usher because we were talking about the option for the audience to leave if they feel that it's offending them. We talked about Shadan. Yeah. And I was at one of her shows and then I think this happens to her all the time. She will go very far with her material. I personally like that. I like to see how far you can go.
I think most of people who come who go to her shows are because they like how she is how she's like they like how she's outspoken and how she's careless about like she's not انه اوكي انا هلا عم بعمل نكته اوكي سامعيني لا she's like انا بدي اقول هذا الشيء انا هلا بدي احكي بهالطريقه ما حفارقه معي اللي مش عاجبه fine عرفت كيف. But she's not انه مثل كل اجري العالم she actually listens to people عرفت كيف.
Yeah, I think that's every comedian, every stand-up has to take that into consideration. I think there's an alarm going off, right?
Already كان حدا سرقه للموتور بس انه روق. ما بينسرق لك لونه.
Is it yours? No.
You're gonna move the motorcycle? مع مين بدك تحكي؟ بعدين هو بده يسرقوه للموتور. حلقة هاو مات يور ماذر عرفت كيف بده يحطوا the Bermuda Triangle. برمودا شو عم بيصير معي اليوم ما عم بفهم انا برمودا.
I watched Shadan go as far as she could and probably testing material. I don't think she has everything ready all the time. She's a comic working. And I saw people leave in the middle of the show.
That's good.
I thought that was the right way to handle it. There's no heckling. Which I think is the worst way to express yourself in front of a comic is to start shouting at them. That I think it changes the tone for everything. they walked out. I think that is the kind of red line, if you will, that's okay.
Well,
John Usher actually approached it from a different side. And he suggested there are certain topics that may be too fragile, that may be too vulnerable to explore on stage. And it may not be what you would think they are, but you kind of discover them all along the way. Personally, I lean to what you say, which is you should be able to laugh about anything. But I don't know if that lands all the time with the audience. So how do you navigate that? If you see people leaving, walking out, do you begin to censor your act?
no.
No. So are you looking for the audience that adjusts themselves to what you're saying?
No, it's أكره شيء, for me at least, that an artist الجمهور عاوز كده. هيك بده الجمهور هيك تعمل الشغل. Why? You're going to a comedian, you're choosing to go to watch this comedian because you relate to them the most. مش بس هيك, because you enjoy and you want to listen to their opinions and you want to know what they are talking about and you want to experience this. يمكن مع الوقت بطل تحبهم.
Yeah.
Fine, that's fine. يمكن مع الوقت تحبهم أكتر. That's also fine. So
Then sorry, how do you then go into the fragile stuff? For example, violence.
Violence.
Or war.
Yeah.
The last time we saw each other, it was, I think during Salem Zatari's episode, you mentioned to me a joke that you were testing, but it was at the beginning of the Hamas-Israel disaster in Gaza, but you were testing a joke. I don't know if you remember the joke you told me.
when I spoke about the paragliding.
Yes, exactly. And it was just maybe days after it began.
Yeah.
But you were willing to go there. Is that something that you say the audience, in other words, you expect them to find you and your craft? You're not worried about the audience's reaction to that kind of a joke.
You don't get to choose your audience أصلا. You don't get to know. Okay, so who's gonna accept jokes about queer community? You. No, it's not gonna happen this way.
Okay.
You're gonna do your jokes in front of an audience who comes from different backgrounds, from different places, from different religions, and they need to accept. مش they need. It's not إنه أنتوا قبلوا نحن لا. بس إنه and نحن we're gonna do the jokes. I'm gonna tell you one incident with me that I didn't censor myself, but I understood the intent of it. Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
So before I did my first special Shashmo, I had this joke that went online, which was I was doing my set and a guy from the back heckled me and I said, Wissam, I was like, and I wasn't talking about this. I was like, out of like nowhere, he was like, ليه أنت لوطي? Why you're gay? I was like, توفر إير عمك. That's it. So what I did next and what was wrong, I said, because people laughed, so I got carried on with the laugh. I was like, هو الضحك وهن الضحكوا وهو الضحك. أنا أتذكر قد إيه أمه بتاكل يورا. That was the wrong part.
Yeah.
So I was carried away.
Okay.
And
yeah.
when I saw the video, and I watched it and rewatched it, and I saw the comments, I was like, they're right. And I patronized the woman for having sex, which is very wrong from me. And that's when I took out this, and I didn't أصلا ما كنت كتبه. I didn't write it. But I said it هيك, and I addressed this in the launch show of Shashmo. I said this happened, and I need to tell you this. مش قصة I'm apologizing for the joke. It's not about being It's about so I did this, and this wasn't cool from my side. And let me tell you with a joke why it's not cool.
So that sounds like when it becomes personal, it's problematic. You're almost going after...
Stand-up is personal, let's face it. Stand-up is a personal art form. You watch us literally be vulnerable on stage in front of you, talking about our stories and talking about our, how do you say it, like problems, but they're your problems as well. That's why you relate. Because we're your mirrors at some point. So in my new special, I talk about how I struggled and how I was frustrated انه بعدني عايش مع اهلي وانشحط من شغلي وبلا بلا بلا كل هالقصص عم شيء, and then خليني نبلش صلح and we see what happens from there. So هيدا الشيء قاطعين فيه at least 3/4 العالم هون عم بحكي عنه. At least في كتير عالم بعدهم عايشين مع اهلهم او كانوا عايشين مع اهلهم وفلوا, so you're gonna see both sides of the story. حتشوف انت كيف صار عمرك 30 اذا حدا صار عمره 30 او حدا حيصير عمره 30 بيشوف هذه القصه. قصه الستراجلز، ينشحط من شغله، يخسر شغل، الفاينانشال سيتويشن، كل هول القصص موجودين بالسبيشل، موجودين بالupcoming special, and they come from a vulnerable place, and I'm super proud that they come from a vulnerable place, because that's how you decide that this special. مش عم بحكي بس عنه، عم بحكي عن اي كوميديان بيكون هذا الشخص، انه oh shit, this is real, this is reality, and I enjoy that this is reality, but I'm laughing at the same time. So you know how to deal with it, or maybe I'm suggesting an idea of how to deal with it with laughter. عرفت كيف؟
Right. I'd like to go into the example of Noor Hajjar.
Yeah.
Because I think he does exactly what you do.
Yeah.
But he...
مثلا Noor is more politically opinionated. He understands politics way more than me. Way more than me.
I don't know if he understands, but he
هاي مشكلتك معه.
No, I mean...
ما تفوتني مشاكل.
No, I meant you're both politically astute. You have you called it social politics?
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like you're as well versed on the subject as Noor Hajjar, but you're right, his act is more political in nature. That's true. And I mean I would assume the whole community fully agreed that this was outrageous. What happened to him is in a way off limits.
Yeah.
It's a comedy.
Yeah.
But it happened anyway. It happened in that he was in a way punished.
ليه مستغربين؟
Sorry?
ليه مستغربين؟ Why are we شو الكلمة؟ Surprised.
No, sorry, I meant the aftermath of that.
Yeah.
Do you think everything was handled the right way?
The aftermath of after that he went out of prison?
After that, people saw that there is perhaps a consequence to talking about certain things.
نحن as comics?
As comics. Yeah. No, I want to go into the strength of what you guys did.
The first thing we did on stage, like, you know, we spoke about this.
Yeah.
The first, like, the first thing I went on stage after what happened with Noor. I said, so اللي قلت لهم اوكي سو نور كان فسرت السيتويشن شو صارت وهيك، وانا وقت صارت القصه تاني مره وقت انحبس كنت I was abroad. I was very angry with انه كنت كل وقت معصب انه هذا نور صديقي وصلنا سنين عشرة عمر واصحاب وبنشتغل مع بعضنا وهو بالحبس وانا مش قادر اعمل شيء. انا كنت برات لبنان وتظاهر على شيء I was so relieved انه اخيرا صار هذا الشيء. بس في حدا قرر يبعث لي مساج على انستغرام اللي شو برو هلا كل الاتنشن عليه لنور هلا مش على الكوميديانز ما هيك هو هلا الربح. وانا انه برو اذا شيء نحن عنا هلا اتنشن نحن عنا هلا كنترول على نور اكثر وقت ممكن، لانه هلا نور من هلا ورايح كل ما بده يعمل نكته بيجي بيسالنا نحن الكوميديانز وكلنا بنتفق عليه انه كل ما يسالنا عن نكته نجي له شو انت حمار بدك تنحبس اكيد ما بتعمل هذه النكته وبيضلوا هيك ليبطل عنده ماتيريال. ولما ببطل عنده ماتيريال بيبطل يشتغل بالكوميدي بيروح بيشتغل توترز.
So you threw it back on
the first thing I said on stage. وطلعت بحدا قلت له انت اكيد مخابرات. So we ما فينا انه نخبى من ورا اصبعنا. أكيد we were afraid of the consequences.
Let me just add some texture because his jokes were not offensive.
No, they weren't.
And actually they could be offensive and it shouldn't matter. But the truth is they were not offensive.
Yeah.
They went after two institutions. They didn't go after. They commented on two institutions.
It wasn't actually commenting on the army.
The army and the second one was.
But he wasn't. ما هالفكرة. He was talking about the government neglection of the army.
So let's say two topics.
Yeah.
The army and I guess you could say Islam in general, but I don't know how you would narrow it down.
Which was taken way out of context.
The political expression of it here. So two issues that he addressed.
Yeah.
I think it was months before he got in trouble for it. It was something like
the army joke or
the army joke was more recent. The religion joke
5 years prior.
5 years.
So Awk.word created a show called
Stand Up. The army joke was 5 years.
No. Sorry, the Quran joke.
The religion joke was 5 years.
So 5 years prior. Yeah. It was. So Awk.word created a show called Stand Up Balade, which featured 6 comedians. One of them was Noor Hajjar. Every comedian had their own episode, which was 20 minutes long. Noor had this joke when he was talking about كيف his خالته was in a funeral and حطت أرجيلة and he jokes about that and then he says إنه أمه كتير بدها تعمل واجبات فراحت عند الشيخ وقالت له إنه ليه ما بتسمعنا أحلى شيء من القرآن and هو صار عم بيقول ما فيك تحكي هيك مع الشيخ انه منه الشيخ منه وديع الشيخ انه he's not like a DJ and he does the ولك الحمد. He's actually protecting the sheikh. He's actually saying he's actually with the sheikh بهذا الجوك. So during this when he addressed the army institution and he wasn't actually if you the قصة الارمي institution he was talking about انه كيف الجوفرمنت انه تخيلوا هلا قبل نحن وصغار كانوا اهلنا يجوا لعنا وسبيشلي نحن الرجال يجوا لعنا يجي عندي بيي مثلا يقول لي شو هلا بتخلص جامعه وبتفوت على الجيش لتأمن حالك. This was the case يعني كانوا يقولوا لنا تأمن حالك. شو يعني تأمن حالك؟ يعني انت you get $1,500 معاش, انت جندي او انت مضابط او whatever, you get free healthcare, you get free education لأولادك. هذا this was the army. Now a soldier يمكن ماكسيموم يطلع له معاش $70. ما بعرف I don't know the numbers now انه خلصت الثورة. ف شو اسمه بيطلع له معاش $70 and he wasn't allowed definitely انه يكون هو عم بيشتغل شغل تاني لانه هو جيشي بالنهاية هذا جيشي. so هل قالوا له اوكي ناو في قانون جديد بيقول انه انت فيك تشتغل شغل تاني لانه احنا مش قادرين ندفع لك معاشك ونعطيك الحقوق اللي انت بتاخدها. so هذا اللي عم بيحكي عنه هو اللي عم بيحكي عنه انه عم تخيلوا انه قد ايه بشع انه الجيش كلهم توترز انه هن عم بيشتغلوا شغل ديليفري. مش انه الانسلت مش كمان في شو اسمه نادين جيم طلعت قالت انا بشرفني انه بيي يوصلني انه الجيش يوصلني التوترز وهيك as if working at Total's as a delivery guy is an insult. تعال افهمه.
But let's say you're going through that too, right?
Yeah.
You're watching a friend get in trouble for harmless humor that's being probably misunderstood more than anything. Do you find yourself limiting? Let's say you're testing your material and those two issues come up. Are you do you think twice before making a joke about the army?
Again, it's about the intent. If I'm saying something الانتنت تبعوله كتير واضح وبعدني أنا I'm on the side of the army مش ضروري أخد sides حتى كمان بس إنه let's say it's not harmful for this institution. إيه ليه لا؟
So the consequence for what happened to him doesn't faze you.
بوقتها بوقتها we were worried إنه okay what's gonna happen next to the stand-up scene?
Right.
Are we gonna be like
إنه
لأنه بوقتها نحن while we were waiting for Noor to come out
they went and kind of harassed
they sent دورية على Awk.word تيشوفوا شو عم بيصير هنيك knowing by the way and if there's a lot of people who are fans of Awk.word there's a lot of army people personnel who are fans of Awk.word بس إنه they didn't like إنه هذا الشيء هاد joke صارت especially هلا now and I understand it at some point لأنه now people especially اللبنانية هلا مش طايقين اي institution طالعه بلبنان مع كل يعني مش نحن ناطرين حتى نفل من البلد which is the saddest part of it and ومش طايقين انه نحن بعدنا عم نعيش على التقنين مش طايقين انه نحن بعدنا عم نعيش بجوفرمنت يلي هي مش عطتنا حقوقنا والدولار ب100,000 وما عنا شيء نسعى له وتنفل من البلد وبس هيك فيكيشن جمعه ونرجع نقرض ديبرشن ما قال رب لانه نحن راجعين على لبنان which is we can all agree as a land and as a culture this is one of the best countries that you can ever be. I'm sure we have 3 men I assume that you're foreigners right that you're not from Lebanon خوانيوك عندك audience man global انه 3 واحد منهم جاي بدفش يعني انه عن جد في هيك مضطرين يا الله محترمين I was just saying welcome so مضطرين اهلا وسهلا فيك so we can agree that there's a toxic relationship we have with Lebanon that we love it so much and at the same time we hate it because of how we're living and we don't get to do jokes about it لا بدنا نعمل jokes وحنتسلى
no but I guess I didn't ask it right this happened a few months ago so there's been some time do you ever get worried that what happened to him could happen to you and does that ever change the way
but legally there is nothing that I'm doing wrong.
Right. Okay. So your stand-up material has not changed as a result of sometimes seeing Shadin in trouble. Maybe not for the same reason. But there are comedians that are often on the news.
But isn't it ironic that we're getting arrested for jokes? it's funny on itself. like انه he got arrested لقاله قال نكتة. What? Okay. Seriously, this is happening. Oh shit. Okay. So it's a double-edged sword. We're gonna arrest them for jokes, but it's bad for us. So we're gonna try to do. We're not changing our material, out of fear. يمكن بلحظتها we have this setback and shit شو حيصير هلا, and then we understand. By the way, this is very the nature of Lebanese people. انه shit COVID شو بدنا نعمل؟ اوكي فينا نروح على بيوت اصحابنا نحط كمامه هيك. So we understand اذا بدك شو مع الوقت شو عم بيصير. بس by the way بس one last thing انه بنفس الليله يلي نور was at the شرطة عسكرية كرمال for the army joke. He finished and we had a fundraiser for مسرح دوار الشمس.
The same night.
He finished and he went on stage. Yeah. And he did that, and he did his set, and he spoke a little bit about what happened there, a little bit, but he يعني بعتقد كان بوقتها تعبان 12 ساعة يعني بالتحقيق أنت عم تحكي. بس he actually went on stage and he did 2 jokes about it. Literally, he went on stage and was like, Allah يرحم أيام زوماتو. That was the first thing he said, and then he carried on with his.
So I put this kind of politics, if you will.
Yeah.
I put this under the bigger umbrella of expression and free expression. So the last few years, that's been happening, and I think the tone is largely correct in that comedians come together, they support someone like Noor, and then he's testing material again that night, and he's making people laugh.
Yeah.
So he's not deterred, which I think is the right signal to send. But there's also something happening, and Salam brought it up, and I think it's okay to talk about, and that there is in the background a feeling of wider cancel culture that's not Lebanese in particular. It's almost like an online phenomenon. Do you ever find yourself in that orbit, that you could be canceled one day?
I don't have this fear because I know the intent of every joke, and I do personally. I research a lot before I joke about something. Like if I have a joke about the queer community, I call at least 4 people who are in the queer community and tell them the joke and tell them, am I saying it wrong? Am I? It's not about offending. Am I saying anything that might تخفف من قيمة what you're fighting with? And إذا أربعتهم بيقولوا لا, it's okay, I'll do it.
So that is, in a way, it's a self-imposed form of censorship.
It's not censorship. It's you're researching your material in order to make it effective for the people that you're defending, or for the people you are talking about. So if I'm talking about the queer community, it's not my battle because I'm not part of the queer community. But I want to say something about them, so I go and ask them.
So let's use this kind of example.
Yeah.
There's 4 friends you trust.
Yeah.
And they all say, no, that's it's off limits.
The second question would be why?
Okay. And let's say they still think it's off limits.
Yeah.
But you believe in the joke.
No.
You wouldn't.
It's not إنه guys ما بالو حلو النكتة بتضحك. It's not this. It's about shit. Okay, so I didn't look at it in that way. I should look at it in the other way. So
I see. So you changed the joke to fit.
No, I changed my perspective on it because I for like the first intention or the first impression, like you pop up a good joke براسك أخو منيوك بتضحك, and then you try to understand why you came up with this joke. By joke I mean it's an idea for a joke. It's not the joke itself. So why am I talking about this? Why did this happen with me? Because I was telling you about the evolution of like between Shashmans and Ashtaf Zoom. So you can see the maturity of the difference in between material. There's at least one person who's seen Shashma, and she saw as well Ashtaf Zoom, and she sent me a very emotional message like I don't want to cry now. So about it. So you work on it based on what you want to talk about and how you want to talk about it. When you have doubts about your material and you're talking about other people or other battles or other, you ask, like if I have a joke about suicide, let's say, كلنا انكمشنا هلا suicide.
That's what you sent Salem Za today, right? Long ago on Facebook
Yeah.
Messenger.
But if I have a joke about suicide, I will take the step to contact people from Embrace. And I will even people who are still discussing with me, friends who are still discussing with me their suicidal thoughts when they had them or not. And I tell them that I'm discussing this, and I go on my research. I am a very how do you say it? Like, I research my jokes way before addressing them on stage, and I make a meaning out of them one by one.
I like that you call it research.
Yeah.
So that's back to the mirroring that you talked about, and that you're mirroring the audience, but you're also learning from the audience.
Yeah, definitely. Because I'm speaking in their voice. Because when I want to do jokes and when I want to do bits, I don't want them to not to be related to what I'm saying. Like, I want to tell them, okay, so this is a conversation between both of us. I don't want you to come to my shows and like, yeah, let's sit and watch. Oh, Wissam, yeah, that's great. No. It's like, we do this every now and then. So, and Wissam is here, so let's hear what he's going to talk about. So I want you to, when you leave my show, I want you to either agree with me or disagree with me. Because that's the beauty of stand-up. The beauty of stand-up is it's a conversation, and it changes throughout your path of throughout your career. Yeah. Whatever you're thinking about. يمكن هلا I'm doing jokes about مثلا بششمة I did a whole set about death and about funerals and about stuff like that. Now I discuss in my new show death in a way different way. Yeah. So it's a process, and your jokes age with you, and your mentality towards the jokes age with you. And one thing that happened with me recently, what I told you about قبل شوي, إنه there was a point, like مش this year اللي قبله, I stopped stand up. I started doing like عامل بشكل السنة around 5 or 6 shows. عم بحكي lineups.
Yeah.
No open mic nights, no comedy club nights, no specials, nothing. Because I felt that I don't fit in anymore. I felt I had my self-doubt. I felt that I'm comparing myself with other comics, and I'm seeing them as great, and I'm not one of them. And I thought I wasn't funny anymore. I lost my audience, and I thought my jokes weren't meaningful enough for me to actually test them even. So I went and I did something else, and I just like رحت عملت صليب أحمر. So because it wasn't one of my passions as well, and I forgot about stand-up. And what brought me in, غير إنه أنت بهالسنة كلها كنت كل وقت براسي عم بقول stand-up كل وقت هذا. It was one night of one person telling me like, where are you? You were great there. And I had a breakdown like the same night. And the second day, I resigned from Salib Ahmar. I went back to comedy as if I am starting again from scratch.
Sorry, when was this? How long ago?
I went back to comedy إذا بدك بطريقة جدية August 2022.
So that's really recent.
Yeah. I went يعني فتت يعني خلص فت فيها إنه okay, I'm starting from scratch again. ولدرجة إنه صرت عم بتعامل مع الكوميديانز اللي بعدهم ماشيين جديد كأنه هن قبلي. So I started like إنه okay, أنت كيف تعمل هيك؟ كيف أنت بتعمل هيك؟ One of them هلا فل كان جاد, وكان في غير ناس إنه بحكي معهم يصير أنا وعم بتعامل معهم, مش إنه guys I had a special before. No, it's not this. And for me it was a relearning experience إنه how or reintroduction to stand up for me حتى أفهم مزبوط why am I doing this and why this means a lot to me. And صرت ما قفت open mic night. صرت كل أحد 2 3 4 أنا on stage. I'm writing, I'm testing out material, I'm researching, and وفت عن therapist قلت لي ليه أنت هون؟ قلت لها جاي أخلص الساعة الجديدة. That was the first thing I said. And 1 year later, December 28, I'm launching my new special. So this is the beauty of stand-up.
You know, actually, it's hard to always have a serious conversation with somebody who makes people laugh for a living. But I think because obviously you're a multifaceted person, and the more I get to know you, the more I realize that in a way you have it's not, I don't know if it's comedy in particular. I think you have the ability to observe. And your observation skills are quite high. And I've heard you talk about your observations in different ways over the years. Stand-up is probably the most exposed version of that, and you are talented at that. I'm glad you're actually back on the scene. And it is quite nice that your second special comes out at the end of December. I'll be there.
Can't wait.
And you said something about intent, which resonates with me. I think you can talk about anything, as long as the intent is accurate. And this includes subjects like what's happening in Gaza. And there are many people that didn't want to talk on the podcast out of principle, that talking about this would make it only worse. I don't know if that's true. I think you can talk about anything always. It's just, it has to land the right way.
There's two things that happened about it. So 3 days after what happened in Gaza, I wrote an article on Daraj, my very first article. I was like, I had this idea and I wrote it. I wanted to talk about it in a serious matter, which was, are we allowed to joke now? It's not about, are we like, you know Bo Burnham?
No.
So Bo Burnham is an outstanding artist. You should please check him out. He's one of my greatest inspirations. So he has a whole bit in his special. It's called Inside. He has he talks about comedy, and he's like, can I joke about this right now? Can I talk about this right now? And I had the same question, especially because I'm living in this region, in this country that's always under threat and it's always under problems. So I wrote a whole article about it and I shared it. And there's another person who tackled this, which was recently Mario Mubarak. He's a comedian who went on stage and he uploaded a reel about it. Who spoke about like, this is our job. Yeah. So we joke about we joke because it's our job. And also I'm gonna add to it, we use this platform in order to say stuff that should be said. نحن عم نمنع حالنا فيه. يعني نحن بنقولهم بالنكت، نحن بنقولهم حتى لو حتى مطارح معينه مش مستنظرين نكت، يعني بنضحك سوري من شيء نحن عم نقوله، نحن بنقوله على ستيج لانه نحن عم نتخزق من جوا لنقوله. يعني we have this urge to say this، يعني we have this urge to talk about this, especially هلا now with what's happening with Gaza. يعني نحن وقت صارت 4 آب، it was the hardest 2 months for us, or at least I'm gonna talk about myself. So أسوأ شهرين لإلي، لأنه طب أوكي نص بيروت دمرت عن جد. عندي وجود أنا هلأ بعد عن جد I'm gonna go on stage and carry on with my life. And then with time you understand إنه I'm not an essential worker, but I'm an essential need at some point. People want to go to comedy shows and تيرتاحوا تيسمعوا غير عالم تيضحكوا to have drinks. It's a social event. يعني تزهقوا العالم يروحوا يلعبوا كاتان، فانه في نحن اذا بدكم زهقوا العالم بيروحوا مثل ما بيروحوا على السينما، مثل ما بيروحوا بيلعبوا بورد جيمز، مثل ما بيروحوا بيعملوا painting، مثل ما بيروحوا بيعملوا اي شيء. Comedy is there for human connection, especially now كمان هلا مع كل شيء عم بيصير.
It serves an essential function. That's true. And I'm glad that you're doing it despite your own personal setbacks, maybe that made you think it wasn't for you. You came back fairly quickly. And I know how much time and effort it takes to put a special together. So the fact that this is your second special in 10 years also says quite a bit of work that's been happening. So I'll say one more thing.
Yeah.
Artists define tragedy. When you look back, you'll remember art form in this country's very rugged history. So they will remember people like Salem Zatari. They will remember comedians that got summoned and left as well. They remember all types of people that express themselves in the most vulnerable ways. So I'm glad you're still doing that. We'll take a small break. I'll restore my voice with some tea.
Please do.
And we'll leave it to the audience in 10 minutes for a Q&A.
Awesome.
Thank you, Wissam.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
to mention something about Wissam. I know this without you knowing. I think Naila Al-Haris, who sat here last week,
يا حبيبتي.
I think she told me, I don't think it was you, that you're gifted in different languages, that you could do your act in sign language.
Yeah. So okay, let me tell you quickly this story, because I saw the episode and I remember you talking about this. So 2010, I was doing my first special. It was humor therapy, هيك اسمه كان. And I was performing the special, and I was looking at the audience, and I saw صبية that I know. Her name was Aline, and she's deaf. She has hearing impairment. She's hearing impaired. For the the George Carlin bit, the softening up the language. You know it? The fuck. She's deaf. She can't hear. Not okay. So I was shocked that she's laughing. So I went to her and I was like, "How was the show?" She was like, "It was good." So I asked her friends, like, how did this happen? They were like, "So when you were facing her, she tried to read your lips.
Yeah.
And when you're facing the other way, we translated in sign language." And I was 18 years old, and I had this existential crisis. Like, I'm doing comedy, but not for everybody. What the fuck is happening? And I took a decision. Like, one day I'm gonna go and learn sign language, and I'm gonna do a show in sign language exclusively for the deaf community. And in 2017, when I got to raise the funds for it, I went and for like a year I studied sign language, and I speak sign language now, Lebanese sign language, not everything. And I started preparing and I wrote the show along the way. And what I discovered, and based on what Naila said, by the way, the problem is not about the language. It's not with the language. The problem is with the culture. So we say stuff as hearing people that they don't say because they use sign language. It's very pragmatic. Like, I'm gonna say, let's say انه قلت عن حدا انه هو لسانه طويل. إذا عملت لك إنه لسانه طويل, how do you say? What do you understand?
Sign that, yeah.
إذا عملت لك إنه شو يعني؟
Right.
لسانه شو قلت لك شو يعني لسانه طويل وتقول عن حدا؟
I don't think you can do that.
No. بس إذا بقول عن حدا هو لسانه طويل يعني بيحكي كتير. يعني هيدول. بس إذا أنا بعمله إنه لسانه طويل بيفهموا لسانه طويل.
Like literally a long time.
That's a bad example. That's not true. بس إنه تحتفهم مش قصدي يعني. Okay, so they think of it as it is. حسب أنت كيف عملت هيدا. ما في إنه they don't have إذا بدك السلانج اللي نحن عنا إياه at some point. You know what I'm saying? So I threw out the whole show and I started rewriting the show, and then the funniest thing happened. COVID. So I stopped working on it because I didn't know when we will get maybe out, and I forgot about, يعني I tattooed it on my arm to remember it يعني إنه حتى إنه one day you're gonna do this. So
you tattooed a sign language act?
So this is the sign language, like the I love you with the microphone.
Oh wow.
So that's, for me, that represents the hour of in sign language. So hopefully what I want to do, I'm not making a big announcement because I used to do that, so and I'm not carry away with it. So hopefully what I want to do now, after launching the new special after Ashtaf Zoom, is to go back to this project and to relearn sign language إذا بدك أعمل practice أكتر, and to rewrite the whole show in order to make it hopefully I want to إنه إن شاء الله أقدر أعملها this year, لأنه خلاص طالما special ماشي, now I want to do something else. I need to.
I'll tell you from my experience, that never happened. I've never even imagined doing this. She sat here, Naila Al-Haris, she was interpreting what I was saying. She was also speaking to the audience and sign language.
Yes.
Because half the audience was deaf.
Yeah.
It was more or less a full house.
هذا أكبر دليل عن
There
inclusion.
were something like maybe 20 deaf people or maybe more. I don't remember the exact number, and they were so into the whole episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
they were laughing, they were interacting. I heard like
yeah, but I think it's because she was translating what I was saying and what she was saying. And she mentioned this.
Yeah.
There's a certain way you have to translate to sign language. It's not literally word for word.
No.
Yeah.
There's another. It's a beautiful language, and it's a we're doing it بلا ما نحس.
Yeah.
So she did like she عملت representation قدامكم قبل شوي قبل بحلقتها انه قالت لكم close your eyes and
imagine
so
right.
when she told you about Lebanon so
right yeah
so it's the cedar
yeah
it's known so I can give you more like cities if I do this is a city in Lebanon Baalbek exactly there you go if I do this is Zahle because of the pounding the meat the kibbeh if I do
now we know why his act doesn't work that's all he does on stage
no
nobody's laughing no I'm joking
I know you're gonna get cancelled anyway, I don't give a fuck.
I say hearing impaired
I said hearing impaired but no okay
it's a developing country no it's a developing country according to you poor
no,
I'm joking
so if you do this مثلا this is Trablus because of the sabun and so on and so on so it's very we always do this without we always speak in sign language without us like knowing it but you have to do more with sign language so if I'm doing in my new show in sign language you won't see me like doing hi my name is Wissam and I'm gonna speak in this way you will see me doing this and I have my hands and I have my facial expressions and my body because that's how I'm talking it's not there's no how do you say it there's no ways for me to put on a bass voice او anything يعني ما فيني اتحكم كتير بصوتي لانه ما في صوت اصلا بس فيني اتحكم بشو عم بقول وشو كيف عم بحاول اوصلهم اياها حتى مثلا بدي اسال سؤال if I want to ask a question I can ask the question I can now as a hearing person I can ask the question this way what's your name but as a person who's speaking sign language I have to ask I have to do this so in order for them to understand that this is a question now so there's a whole other spectrum about like there's it's challenging but it's beautiful and I love it because of its challenge and I love it because they need to be included in our community and the best thing to do in a community is laughing.
Well, judging that you wanted to do this 5 years ago, pre-COVID, I'll take you to a tattoo removal artist here that you can. If it's not going to happen, you have to.
No, I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to do it.
No, I would love to see that happen. I would love to see it happen. Let's have questions for Wissam, since we're a small audience, and I think some of us know him.
Yes. لحظة. اسمك بأي صف شو؟
ديما في واحد يكون عنده stage fear ويكون good comedian.
Yes.
صارت معك أو ما بعرف have you ever been at a point حسيت هيدا الشيء؟
Like خبري أول شيء thank you so much for your question. Having fear before a show is constant. كل الوقت حيصير وأنا في أيام بعت الهم إذا ما إنه موجود قبل الشو بحس حالي حخريها يعني عرفت كيف فإذا ما إنه موجود بقول لا what the fuck what's happening and one of the great examples of someone who has stage fright and being a great comic is someone who's named Mitch Hedberg. Mitch Hedberg, I don't know if you know him. Mitch Hedberg had such a stage fright. He had long hair and he used to wear sunglasses and he used to look at the mic. He didn't look at the audience and he's one of the best comedians يلي قطعوا على هذا البلانت. Like he has one of the greatest jokes ever that I like. A guy came to me and said, "Hey, this is a picture of me when I was younger. Every picture is of you when you were younger." That's a great line. That's an outstanding line. And this guy like passed away very young, but he
died of a heroin overdose. Actually, yeah.
Unfortunately,
yeah. I like that you know this guy. I used to watch him on TV.
I love him. I love Mitch Hedberg.
He's the kind of person I was drawn to. In terms of comedy, because that was somebody you could tell who was afraid to be on stage, yet he was still there.
Exactly.
So the question is actually appropriate.
Yeah.
How do you overcome stage fright?
The need. There's a need bigger than your fear. I want to be on this stage. I want to do these jokes. I want to speak with this audience. So I'm gonna let some fear not keep me away from doing this. This is fucked up.
You don't have a routine. It's not like something that...
No, I don't like... I know before like ritual or something like that. No, I don't know. Like I... actually, I say some. Okay, I'm gonna be very dramatic with it, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Whatever. Vulnerability. And again, I say to myself, if no, I'm not that of a believer. Like I don't follow a religion, but I always say, if there's a God or something.
You just all that disclaimer in case there's a God.
In the case, because no, ما فينا ناخد ريسك كتير. Cancel culture.
I don't think he can cancel you, but
بلا he can bro. طلع على المقابر. فانه انه بقول مع نفسي انه يا رب خلي هذا الشو يكون احلى شو عمله بحياتي لهلا، ويا رب خلي كل هدول الشوات اللي قطعوا يكونوا علموني كيف اعمل هذا الشو. فانه that's the only thing I said. And I'm doing this and I'm saying this to myself. I'm talking to myself. بس انه مش انه الله او شيء، بس انه that's the thing.
I think it's the right attitude to have.
Yeah.
Other questions, the gentleman
from
Canada.
He looks like someone, but I'm trying to remember whom. Okay, come.
It's Haley Joel Osment, the kid who sees dead people.
So
people.
Oh yeah. I thought for a second you were speaking Quebecois. I was like, oh, I'm fucked.
So Hassan Minhaj had some issues recently where people are like, "Oh, you're not telling the whole truth in your jokes," and I have never thought that comedians were telling the truth when they were telling their history and their stories and stuff. What do you think is the importance of like honesty in your storytelling, or how much of you do you put into your stories that are in your stand-up?
Let me assure you, in my stand-up, every bit comes from a real place, from something real that happened at some point. But as a comic, I work it around and I try to rewrite it and try to find the right things to joke about. And let's say, I have in Shashma, in my last special, a whole bit about how I am, as a Muslim, I went to my first funeral, which was my grandfather, and somebody stole the shoes of my cousin. And there was one uncle who was like, who's very like cocky and very Beiruti style, and he just said that the sheikh stole it. I turned this whole bit into a fight between the uncle and the sheikh, and they threw punches at each other, and it was a massive thing. So there's some truth of it, but it's not all true. And with what happened with Hassan, I can call him Hassan Broite لأنه بتكيف Hassan Minhaj. I didn't understand why people were frustrated because he's not saying the truth in his jokes. These are jokes, so why would you give a fuck? Please, I need you to be authentic. I need you to be 100% truthful when you're talking about jokes. These are jokes. Come enjoy them, think about them or not. Like there's no مش ضروري انه there's comedians that they overthink their jokes in order for them to send out a message. It's just a joke. It's just a good joke, and they said it.
I'll add to that. That's less comedy, was more social commentary. Is that where you can get in trouble? That
no, people were attacking him because in his special, he wasn't that truthful. One, how do you know? Secondly, like, why does he need to be truthful?
Was it the jokes that got him in trouble, or was it the commentary that got of the statements? Right.
Like he would tell a story about like his ex-girlfriend and meeting his ex-girlfriend. Sorry. He was like meeting his ex-girlfriend's parents, and they were being racist towards him, which wasn't actually like somebody interviewed his ex-girlfriend.
Did he name the ex-girlfriend?
No.
There you
exactly.
go. Legally, he's not bound to say the truth. Like he can do whatever the fuck he wants.
But I was wondering why he got in trouble as opposed to other people who make things up all the time. Is it that he's trying to use comedy to deliver commentary?
Yeah, he can say whatever the fuck he wants in order to send out a decent message, which was about racism. If it didn't happen actually, okay, who gives a fuck? Like they went all the way and they interviewed the ex-girlfriend about like why I have a lot of material that I was okay. I'm gonna ruin this, but I have a bit in my new special that I talk about that I do role play with my wife, and her mom got in the way. this never happened. I'm sure this never happened because I'm sure. But it was only if what if because the bit is about every time my wife changes her profile picture on WhatsApp, her mom puts the same profile picture. And I was like, what if I sent her something sexual? It was what was meant to my wife.
And if she replies.
And if she replies. So there's a whole bit about it that it actually happened, which it didn't actually happen. It was just a question in my mind, like, what if I did this? And there you go. So yeah, it's good to have truth in your jokes, which is great. That's how people relate. But it's not like people, if they're taking it to the far to reach out to the ex-girlfriend to actually research every joke, like what the fuck? Like
Hi, Wissam.
Hi.
So I have a question. What do you do when you feel like you want to write something, and you have the idea in your mind, but you just can't? And how do you overcome this feeling? And especially when you start saying to yourself, like, no, it's not gonna be nice. It's gonna be, ما بعرف, بايخة.
Okay.
So on.
If you're in a toxic relationship with a guy or a girl, I don't know your orientation, but I know. Would you stay with them to fix them, or would you move away? You move away. The right thing to do is to خلص to leave it. Okay, let's يمكن عم بعطي the wrong example. Okay, بس إنه if I want to write something, the only person اللي عم بيحط deadline علي هو نفسي. ما في deadline. ما لازم يكون في deadline. ما بعتقد إنه this is a writing process. It's a discipline that you create along the way. So I don't decide to write. Personally, I don't. Okay, today I'm gonna write comedy. No, it's never happened. It actually started with an idea, and I start developing it in my mind. And what I do usually, if you want to do the same, is when I'm with friends and I want to talk about, let's say the topic is Christmas. So I want to talk about Christmas. Something happened at Christmas. I divert the conversation into Christmas, and I wait for them to shut up. And when they're silent, I say the bit as if I'm telling them a story. And if it works on them, I start developing it for the audience. So if the joke is not working now, leave it alone. Go do something else. If you go back at it and it still doesn't work, خلص, chuck it. But keep it. Keep the joke somewhere. معقول كتير بعد 10 years you'll find out, and now it makes sense to you. Now it makes كتير sense to you, and now it works for your maturity and your time life, and now you have the idea for it. The process of stand-up is always getting ideas for jokes. It's not getting married to one bit. That's how the evolution of comedians happens. That's why you see مثلا كذا comedians عندهم كذا special. يعني let's take the example of Shakir Abu Abdullah. Shakir Abu Abdullah is one of my very good friends. He's like my brother, and he's an inspiration لإلي. لأنه the guy started when he was 46 years old. He started his special at 46 years old, and he's now doing his second special at 51, and he just finished his European tour. So the guy is amazing, and he doesn't take stand-up for granted. What he does, he writes a joke, he does something else. He writes a joke, he does something else. Oh, I have like 5 minutes. Let me test them. And he tests them and go. And he's in the circle without like the stress of it. So he has the second special, and now he في ثالث special عم بتقرب. So that's the beauty of Shakir, يعني.
I want to ask one very detailed question.
Yeah.
You test the material to hone it into a solid 1 hour. And then when it's ready, you actually do it on the 28th. How do you edit? Is it that the audience is not laughing at the moment you want them to, and then you have to write that section down and then rewrite it? Are you just remembering in your mind that didn't land right?
So-
Or are you sometimes recording yourself?
We're always recording.
So
We're
you
always
record-
recording.
You're recording the testing.
It's the hardest part of stand-up, watching yourself doing stand-up. ده أبشع شيء بالعالم.
So
بس-
you're recording the audience too and their laughter.
No. You're just recording yourself.
So yeah,
So
but you can,
there's a camera at the back of the room recording your whole set on a white shot. And I sit there after FD's show and I watch it. I was like, I should have done this better. I should have, I raised my hand this way. And I edit.
you're watching yourself perform.
Yeah, and that's very hard.
Yeah.
That's very hard, but I have to because that's how you study. It's like basketball players or football players who watch their game or other people's games to learn how to for them to become better. Even if they're training every day, if they're winning championships, they have to go into this process. And I, as an athlete, I have to go into the
And myself as an athlete too.
yeah. The only thing common between me and my wife is we both have boobs. So thank you for the Canadian laugh. Yeah.
No one disagreed.
Yeah, I'm so close to the visa. You can't tell. Yeah, so we write them and we rewrite them and we watch the footage and you start cursing at yourself like طب انت حمار ما كيف قلتها هيك هيك انا بصير بحكي مع حالي هيك انه انت غبي اوكي كثير and I write it
So you know where the sections are that you have to fix.
and then you're watching and you say shit فيني اقول هالشي هون اوكي that's why I tested the new special 4 times before I did it.
Yeah.
عرفت كيف؟ And now by the way مثلا I tested it the first Wednesday of November, all the Wednesdays of November, and I stopped. I did the last test 29 November, and I'm launching in 28 December. So in the meantime, عم بعمل شيء اسمه عم فصفص البت. عرفت كيف؟ So I'm working on the special bit by bit in order to make sure that I cut out all the fat and I have a good structure. And the best thing that مثلا I'll take example. I have one bit I talk about that I called a sheikh at 4 a.m. by mistake. Fine? And it ends on a good punchline. For me, it wasn't enough. It wasn't... people enjoyed it. They were laughing. I'm not saying something with it. It's obvious what I'm trying to say, but it's not that obvious. So now, it's way different. Now the ending is a better punchline. You've seen the bit تبع الشيخ. هلا بليكها بعد الهيدا ما بدي افضحها عرفتي so now it has a longer punchline which is actually saying something. It's amplifying what I'm trying to say.
So those 4 times you were able to
to
fix
shift
it.
And after that I'm working on the bit by bit like it's the new special. It's called Ashtaf Zoom. It has 47 bits, so an hour and 5 minutes of 47 minutes. I'm working on 47 bits one by one in order to see the...
Just out of curiosity, is the paragliding joke in the...
No, it's not.
So can you share that with the audience? Because...
Okay, so what I said on stage, because it happened... what did I say? It was something that it was topical because... So I said, please, إنه تحية لفلسطين كل العالم. Like, yeah, okay, because we were all frustrated with it. إنه أنا قلت إنه I'm gonna try to say it in English as well. So they were heroes, no? They attacked them with paragliding. They went on them like they flew to their lands and they were like and at the same time in their neighboring country, Eli is holding Sarah on Harissa. They were like, يلا okay, علي شريكة. Okay, عليك حريصة. So it was, I'm just comparing like what I'm trying to say with this joke, like there is a struggle happening and at the same time like we're living our life fine here. So
you know what I liked about that when you kind of whispered it to me. It was during Salam Zaatari's episode.
Yeah.
You were saying, is this... You weren't uncertain. It was more like, this is the stuff I'm testing.
Yeah.
I like that you can think about that literally days after.
Yeah.
But you found a way to... It lands just right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the kind of material I enjoy too. It's on the edge. But it doesn't offend.
Yeah, but before I did that, I went to friends who are actually Palestinians and who are covering the news religiously and they're hurt because of it. And I told them like, I have this joke. What do you think about this? And because they're friends, they responded with honesty. And that's how I did it.
Right.
It's not بس تبه. It's not always I'm going like ما تفكر إنه كل bit عم بعملها عم بسأل.
You have a research
إنه, okay,
team.
I have this bit. Okay, Ronnie, ليك في عندي help. It's not always the same. But if it's not personal, if I'm talking about a cause or someone else, I have to research it properly. I have to ask the right questions.
Yeah.
Not because I don't want to offend anybody, just because I want to give it for it to be very effective and pleasing at the same time.
Samir.
All right. So, following up on what you just said, and considering that at the very beginning you said something to the effect that this is a scene that is very male-dominated.
Yeah, it is.
Yep. And that little part you talked about intent of the joke.
Yeah.
Right. So we have a lot of toxic males in this environment who are very sexist or sometimes very racist. What is it, or how do you feel is the best way to tackle this issue here in Lebanon?
Talk about toxicity as
to deal with these toxic males who think they're comedians but are pretty much assholes.
Simple, with jokes. Like when I go on stage and I share with you the same view about what you're talking about, and this hurts me because I see that other people are hurt because of it, and this means something to me. I'm gonna write a joke about it, and I'm not gonna give a fuck. I'm gonna talk about it, and I'm gonna say, like, there's a bit in my new special as well when I talk about a wedding كبت البouquet and it's very feminine, but it's مشهد من 300. So I talk about this, and then I say, بس نحن رجال, نحن عنا we have the testosterone, we need to. So I mock men about how stupid testosterone as a hormone. It's the stupidest hormone in the body. So I talk about it at the same time. So we tackled it either by a whole bit or by tags or by small punchlines or something like that. So I've solved it. I don't solve it. I'm not here to solve it as a person, but I'm here to talk about it and to سخفها as a comedian with jokes.
All right. So maybe a follow-up to that question is, how would you make it more inclusive of females?
The stand-up is not restricting females to come. بس المشكلة إنه there's not a lot of females that are trying to come to comedy, which I understand them because في هيدا المنتاليتي التوكسيك الذكورية يلي هي إنه النسوان ما بيضحكوا والنسوان بس حيحكوا عن their period وعن their كله خرا. كيف إنه they are allowed to talk about whatever the fuck they want. They're very funny. ما خص إنه I'm not talking about a group. إنه هدول الجماعة هن they're humans at the end of the day. So يمكن women are not they're a bit afraid of to come try out material حتى for them not to be perceived at this. This is as a message for female comics. If they want to try out material and they want to become stand-up comedians, please come because we need you. Please come share your talent, come share your thoughts with us because we need female comics. يعني أنا هلا فيني أعدل لك أسامي. يعني في عندك شادن, ستيفاني غلبوني, وتيرا عيراني. ليك عم بفكر حتى we had a great comic وكمان وقفت بعد فترة اسمها نور رفاعي. وش خسارة وشادن قلتها بالأول. مين بعد فيه؟ ذكرني. لا عم بحاول مين؟ لين عبد الله. لين مدلل هاي رئيس انت بلشت. تخيل ليك في 5 وعم بعيني لحتى اتذكر ناس. تياد ديزير. لا تياد ديزير هلا عم نحكي قديما هذا. ايه عرفت. تخيل مثلا اوكي تياد ديزير في 5 رجال ومرأة. there's it is not male dominated. It's literally the statistics. 1 female على 5 رجال. هذه هي.
أنا sorry. Go ahead.
So برأيك مش لأنه هن انهم مفكرين حالهم رح يكونوا بايخين اكثر ما انه ما قادرين يكونوا هالقد ترانسبيرنت وحقيقيه قد رجال على الستيج؟
لا
لانه
بالعكس we want them to be transparent. ما هي عم بيقولوا كلنا بنفكر انه نحن بايخين دائما.
No, I mean الأودينس بتفكر
إيه.
برأيك المرأة خايفة إنه توقف على هيدي الستيج وتفضي كل شيء
إيه.
بطريقة كتير حساسة وكتير شفافة مثل ما أنتوا بتعملوا، وبالتالي ما بالتالي تكون عم تعرض حالها لشيء الرجال عادة ما بيتعرض له بمجتمعنا.
ما that's the problem. ما هذه هي اللي عم بقول لك عليها انه that's the problem يلي هو and I understand the fear. I understand ليه most females might retract from doing comedy من وراء هدول القصص هدول. بس ما كمان بدناش نحكي عن شادن as an example. شادن was a pioneer as a stand-up comedian لأنه هي كانت من أول الناس الفيميل كوميكس اللي طلعت قالت إنه I'm a female comic, I'm gay, I'm outspoken, fuck you all. And that's شادن. عرفت كيف؟ and I take her as an inspiration بهذا الشيء. وكمان I think other females should مش بس هي should take her and Stephanie and Tara. We have to go on stage and we have to test out material and we have to change the norms. And comedy helps a lot because comedy is the fastest way to change perspectives. عرفت كيف؟ we need you. أنا ما بعرف ليه هلا هذا الشيء صار هلا صارت my cause for this year. بس عن جد لأنه بنقهر لما أنا أشوف إنه في 9 مثلا بكوميدي كلاب نايت في 7 كوميديانز وبنت. بتعرفي what's bad about what قصة مثلا قلتي لي إنه كانوا يعملوا مسرحيات ويكون في مرة كانت شو yeah I'm talking to you because you asked the question. So this woman which I hate myself for not remembering the name يعني هي كانت تشتغل مع بيير شاماسيان أندري جدع هدول. yes so من بعدين وقت صاروا يصيروا هدول غير كوميدي كلاب نايتس غير كوميدي نايتس وهدول كانوا يجيبوا women unfortunately because انه it's sexy لازم كمان الاودينس وهدول سوري ما هالشغله بس كسخت هالشغله للاخر يعني انه we're bringing on just the females in order بس to spice up the night. This is fucked up because we're not discussing the talent اول شيء انه تعي قولي نكت بس انه انت لانه that's not the case now which is great. This in stand-up comedy now we have the platform and we have the acceptance and we have كيف بدي أقولها we have the الوجود والتغيير اللي صار in order to introduce all comics from all gender and from all orientations and from all pronouns أو شو ما يسميه okay and they're talking about things that matter to them with everybody knowing that there's consequences بقصص معينين يعني.
Do you still have a seat for December 28?
I don't know. صراحة I just يعني هلا قبل ما نطلع نبلش هذا I announced the show so I don't know. I can't wait for you to come and with Ronnie.
Thank you.
So since we're a bit over time, I want to say I'll wrap it up by emphasizing it's Ashtaf Zoom.
Yes, Ashtaf Zoom.
Ashtaf Zoom at KED.
At KED at Awk.word.
At Awk.word, December 28th.
December 28th. The early show, 6:30.
The early show.
هيك بنخلص ونروح نشرب كاس to celebrate, which is great.
Okay, so 6:30. That's
إنه 7 بطلع على stage أنا مفروض يعني.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, count me in.
Please.
If there's still seats available.
There's still seats available. We just announced the show, so I'm sure. اللي تفاجأ هلا خلص الحلقة طلع sold out أنا
that would be great. You'll squeeze in 2 more.
No worries.
I think the art form, humor, it heals wounds.
أكيد.
Yeah, and I think it does that so well here. And that's why I think this kind of art form flourishes in times of pain.
Yep.
People need it. And you're right, you are a necessity. It's almost like you're not an essential worker, but you're in need. These are your words.
Yes.
So it's a utility people turn to. I've healed my own wounds through comedy. I turned to comedy for my own reasons. And I continue to turn to the art form in many different ways, including going to KED regularly, to Awk.word. So I'll be there on the 28th.
Can't wait for you to come.
Don't take another year off from this kind of work.
I'm gonna do my best. No, now I'm in a good place. Yeah.
And maybe next act, we'll see you doing it in sign language.
Can't fucking wait.
That would be incredible.
Yeah, can't fucking wait, Sarah. How? I hope this happened this year.
You said you have no limits. No limits in your act.
Yeah.
You're willing to go everywhere. It's clear. You've tattooed a certain art form that's not even explored. comedy for a deaf audience.
Exactly.
So that's the kind of pursuit I think that's needed.
And I can't wait for it to happen. Just حتى ما أزعل التاتو يعني.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you, Wissam. Thanks to everyone that joined.
Thank you so much for coming.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
So Wissam Kamal LB on Instagram.
Yeah, so it's Wissam Kamal everywhere but on Instagram because ironically there's another person called Wissam Kamal اخذ اليوزر name and he's a doctor so أيرب حظي أنا كان بدي أعمل حكيم ما قدرت so إنه أيرب معي
He's the doctor.
Yeah.
You're not. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's the doctor and he has my username.
And he has your username.
So it's Wissam Kamal LB. So I have to do it.
It's the Beirut Banyan on Instagram. The schedule is up there. Thank you, Wissam.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening and watching, and a friendly reminder to support this podcast by contributing through Patreon or PayPal. All links are in the details box. Until next time, I'm Rani Shatah, and this is the Beirut Banyan.